Well, welcome to Rendering Insights. In this video, we're going to render out a little Chevy Nova. If you enjoy this video, please like and subscribe down below. Okay, this is the drawing we're going to be doing. Just fun little muscle car, got some giant meats on the back. We will do the line work in Illustrator and then bring it into Photoshop and do all our color work. All right, let's get started. Okay, we are in Adobe Illustrator. A little while back, I had drawn out this little Nova for a buddy of mine and decided, now it's time to do a digital version of this. We'll tweak it a little bit. So this is the original sketch that I had done. I scanned it in, and of course it got all pixelated, which is really fun. And before we take and create our new line work over this, we're going to do a tissue layer over the top, which I do on pretty much all my projects. So here's that little tissue layer we put on there, just so we can see our new lines easier when we draw them on here with our pen tool, but still be able to see through to our original guide. Okay, so on another layer we'll open up and we're going to go ahead and grab our pen tool on the left and draw out all these lines, and pretty much going to do it exactly like this sketch. So here's our lines. Okay, so all I did was add a few little interior details and change the front wheel a little bit from the original sketch. See that? Just made it a little more modern and took the graphics off of it. Okay, so now that we have our lines on here, we can go ahead and get rid of our tissue layer, and you can see what a difference that makes without that. It's just so hard to see our lines. We'd never be able to figure out where we are. Now we'll get rid of that sketch. So all these lines are on a single layer. Now the only thing I added on a separate layer was the glass, so we can put that in Photoshop and do some work separately, and the headlights. Sometimes like to put a lens over the top of our color work and do a little shading. So getting rid of our lines, you can see I have these on a separate layer. Okay, but there's all our lines. So let's go ahead and bring that into Photoshop and put some color on it. Okay, we have our line work here in Photoshop. First, let's go ahead and make 4 copies of this line work. So drag it over on the right down to that little plus sign and make 4 copies. And then layer by layer, we'll start doing some shading in there. But on the first layer, the bottom layer, we're going to go ahead and do a white fill in all these areas. That just gives us a good foundation. So when we do our shading, we can use that white to show through and give us a little highlight. All right, but to make sure that we have these areas all filled in white and we don't have any little surprises peeking through, little holidays, let's go ahead and put our background on here first, which is something I don't normally do, but let's just put that on there. I decided to do a little gradation background for this Nova, but it allows us to see if there's any little gaps in our white fill anywhere. So we fill this with our paint bucket tool, and I don't see anything. If we did, we would grab our paintbrush tool and get real small and get in here and do any little details that we may have missed. Okay, so once we have a good white fill, we'll open up that second line layer and we'll do our base colors on this car. Now the color we're doing is kind of a gold color. So the foundation color we're going to do, the base color, is this yellow. Looks a little pale, looks like a faded out taxi cab, but that's where we're going to start. And same with the tires. Even though tires are black, we're going to use this kind of medium warm gray as a base color for all of our tires. Then we'll come back and do shading on it later and bring them to life. Okay, so here's our base colors. So real simple. On all our chrome, I just kind of use a warm gray here and cool gray up here for the mirror and all this stainless trim. Pretty simple. All right, and went ahead and just blacked out all the undercarriage and down below and headliner and everything inside. See, that was all white before, but we just kind of blacked all that out, so it's pretty simple. Okay, next we're going to go ahead and open up that third line layer and we'll do some shading on top of these base colors. Now I said this was going to be kind of a gold color, so what we'll do in this third line layer is grab your magic wand tool up on the left and select these sections one at a time or in a group So we can start brushing in with the paintbrush tool, doing some shading. So like for instance, grab this rear fender, this lower section, this part of the door, and this part of this front fender. Start brushing in this gold. Let me show you what this first layer of shading looks like. See what that did? We use this body line to make a little bit of a crisp paint line. It's real small on the lines itself, but see what that did just for showing some shape. So we open up our paintbrush tool pretty wide and start brushing, not going all the way down, so we keep that light tone here. Same with down on these rockers and up on the roof. Just little by little shading our car up. Same thing with our chrome. Even on our wheels, we started doing some shading on this alloy wheel. Okay. On the next line layer, we're going to do the rest of our shading. Just start tightening things up a little bit and start doing some highlights. See what a difference that made on our chrome and on our wheels. Down here is all we did was add a little bit of a horizon line and some basic shading. And on our rear wheel, there's not much detail. We're not showing any hub or anything. Let's back up a little bit. There's our base color. It really is just a very light gray. Some basic shading. We went in here and put a little horizon on each panel. Select this one with the magic wand, get this kind of dark gray, and just start playing with what this reflection of this horizon might look like. And on the next one, just start tightening things up a little bit. Put a little blue down below and a little warm color here, and then just brushed in a little bit of white, just a little highlight on the edge, those ripples on those rings. Okay, and did the same up with this little mirror. Pretty simple. We had our base color. Went in here and just created this horizon reflection, and it would never be this strong. It looks like a landscape scene, right? But after we put some blue and some brown on here and a little bit of shadow, then the next one we come in here and just lighten everything up. Select this area and then grab your white, just knock it all down a little bit, and then start creating some highlights up around this edge, some reflection. Okay, just treat each panel that same way. And on the last line layer, we're just going to do a few more little details on here. I just did a little reflection down the side of the car. I don't even know what that is, but it just needed something to break it up. And other things, just went ahead and put more shadow. This is a deep, deep wheel in here for these monster meats back here. So we just needed a little bit of shadow in there. Same with this front wheel, and just more detail on our bumpers and our chrome. Okay. Now remember that extra little layer we made for these headlights? Now's the time to go ahead and drop that on there and just do a little shading just to soften this up a little bit. So here's our headlight lenses. It's not super realistic, but just something to knock that down where it looks like maybe we're looking through some glass into something that's going on in here. All right, and same with that windshield. Remember we had that separate layer for our glass up here. So this is what I did with that. Open up that layer, put it on top of what we already have here, and just start brushing in some blue here, a little bit of white, and then there's almost this black down here, creating this reflection. Just playing. It took me a little while to figure out what I wanted to do on that, but I think that's a good place to start for our glass. The only other thing we have on this drawing are some top highlights. Okay, and this is what those are. There's not much, mainly just on the chrome and on the wheels. See what that does? Just those little details that make your drawing pop a little bit, a little more believable. Just on the lug nuts and on that center cap. And a few things over here on the bumper and glass. We have a little bit on the mirror too. A few little places on stainless. But that's basically it. Well, there's a quick look on how to render out this little Chevy Nova. Please check out our other videos available on Rendering Insights.